My name is Margaret Williams. I am 72 years old, a grandmother of 5, and I have lived long enough to know that betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those you once held close to your heart. All my life I built my family on love, trust, and sacrifice. But little did I know that one day my very own daughter-in-law, the woman I welcomed like a daughter, the one I trusted to take care of my son and grandchildren, would be the one to push me off a cliff for money. And not just any money. $5 billion. The air was sharp and cold on that mountain edge. The world stretched beneath me, dizzying as my feet clawed at loose stones. Her hand was on my back, trembling but firm, and her whisper hissed in my ear. "Goodbye, Margaret. You've lived long enough." And then, with one swift shove, I felt myself weightless, falling, the cliff swallowing me whole. But what she didn't know was that the FBI had been watching her every move. And the moment my body disappeared into the abyss, agents sprang into action. Yet at that instant, as I plummeted toward the rocks below, I had no idea if I would live to see another breath. Cliffhanger. Pause here to grip the audience before backstory. The story didn't start on the cliff.
Well,
It began months earlier, in my quiet countryside home where I thought life had finally slowed down enough for peace. I had inherited not just wealth but also the heavy responsibility of managing my late husband's empire. My son Robert was groomed to take over. His wife Catherine seemed the perfect partner, beautiful, intelligent, charming, with eyes that could convince even the coldest soul. But charm can be a mask, and Catherine's mask was about to slip in the most terrifying way. I remember the first sign, a subtle one. Catherine would linger too long over the financial reports, her gaze sharpened with hunger, not curiosity. I thought it was harmless. After all, she had access as Robert's wife. But one night as I passed her study, I heard her on the phone whispering, "Once she's gone, the rest is ours. He won't resist me." I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Was she talking about me? Or someone else? I brushed it off, convincing myself that I misheard. But the seed of doubt had been planted. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Confront her? Or watch silently, waiting for proof? Days turned into weeks, and the cracks in Catherine's facade widened. She insisted on handling more financial affairs, urged Robert to convince me to retire, and smiled a little too brightly when I dismissed the idea. My instincts screamed at me. Still I held back. A mother's love for her son blinded me to the danger his wife posed. Then came the day I discovered the offshore accounts. Hidden deep in the company's records, transfers I never approved had been funneled into a name I didn't recognize. But when I looked closer, the trail led to Catherine. My chest tightened, my hands shook. $5 billion. She was bleeding us dry, and Robert had no idea. I told myself I would confront her the next morning. But that night, I woke to the sound of footsteps outside my bedroom door.
low, anxious,
Predatory. I slipped out of bed, pressing my ear against the wood. She was there, listening, waiting. My skin crawled. From that moment I knew. She wasn't just greedy. She was dangerous. If you think money can't turn family into enemies, you're about to learn how wrong that is. What followed was a game of shadows between us. She smiled sweetly at breakfast, pouring me tea, but her eyes were daggers. She laughed with Robert in the living room, but every chance she got, she studied me like prey. I pretended to be oblivious, but inside I was trembling. Catherine was waiting for the perfect moment, and I had no idea how far she would go. The FBI came into the picture when one of our banks flagged suspicious activity. They contacted me directly, suspecting embezzlement. Instead of hiding it, I made a choice. I told them everything. My suspicions, the accounts, the late-night whispers. And that was when they asked me a chilling question. "Mrs. Williams, would you be willing to let us watch her? To see how far she'll go?" My answer was yes. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted protection, for Robert, for my grandchildren, and even for myself. But agreeing to it meant living in constant fear, pretending not to know, waiting for Catherine to make her move. And when she did, it was far worse than I could have imagined. She invited me to the mountains for what she called a bonding trip. Just the two of us. "We'll watch the sunrise together, Mother," she said with a smile so sweet it almost fooled me. Almost. I agreed because by then the FBI had wired me, tracking every step. But even knowing they were watching, my heart hammered in dread. The morning was beautiful. The sky painted in gold and violet as we stood at the cliff's edge. I wanted to believe, for one fleeting moment, that maybe I had misjudged her. Maybe she truly wanted peace. But then she leaned close, her breath hot against my ear, and whispered those fatal words. "Goodbye, Margaret. You've lived long enough." Her push was sudden, violent. My body lurched forward, the world spinning into chaos. I heard her gasp, not of regret but of satisfaction. And as the wind tore at my face, as the abyss opened to devour me, I thought, so this is how it ends. At the hands of family. But no. It wasn't the end. Not yet. Because what Catherine didn't know was that the FBI was closer than she thought. And the moment she believed I was gone, they were ready to strike. If you're hooked by Catherine's shocking betrayal and the FBI's hidden hand, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with friends. Because in the next chapter, you'll see how the truth begins to unravel, and trust me, you won't believe what Catherine does next. The wind screamed in my ears as my body plummeted downward. Rocks, jagged and merciless, rushed to meet me. My mind flooded with flashes of my children's laughter, my late husband's smile, the weight of every sacrifice I had made for the family. Was this truly how my story was going to end? At the hands of my daughter-in-law, Catherine? Then, suddenly, an arm yanked me sideways. A rope, disguised as part of the cliff's safety equipment, tightened around my waist. I swung violently against the rocky wall, scraping my arms and legs, but I was alive. My scream echoed, swallowed by the abyss, while above me Catherine laughed, believing she had succeeded. She didn't see the agents hidden in the trees. She didn't hear the faint static of the radio in my pocket. She thought I was gone. But survival is not victory. As I dangled there, bruised and breathless, I wondered, how much further was she willing to go? And if she had already tried to kill me once, what would stop her from trying again? Hours before that cliffside horror, Catherine's mask had already begun to crack. On the drive up the winding mountain road, she hummed a lullaby, a chilling tune my son once told me she sang to the children when they were sick. Except this time, her voice carried no warmth. It was slow, deliberate, and mocking, as if every note reminded me of where she wanted me to end. At one point she turned to me and asked, "Do you ever feel tired of life, Margaret? Like maybe it's better to let go before you become a burden?" I smiled faintly, my hands gripping the seatbelt, my heart pounding. "I'm old, Catherine, not useless." Her lips curved into a smirk, and she said nothing more. But the silence that followed was heavier than words. Would you have spoken up then? Or stayed quiet, knowing danger was sitting right beside you? Meanwhile, Robert was blind. My son, my only boy, saw Catherine as an angel. He adored her, worshipped her even. And why wouldn't he? She had given him children, stood by him in public, smiled for the cameras, and played the role of the perfect wife. I couldn't bear to shatter his illusion. Least not yet. But Catherine wasn't as careful as she thought. She had grown bold, sloppy even. The FBI showed me footage of her meeting with strangers late at night in hotels, handing over documents, whispering about transfers, laughing about the fortune she'd inherit once I was gone. Every piece of evidence added fuel to my dread. And yet, she moved with such confidence, as if she believed no one could touch her. But greed has a way of clouding judgment. And Catherine was drunk on it. As the car climbed higher into the mountains, I prayed silently for strength. I told myself this might be the final act, the one that would either break me or save me. Catherine didn't know that the FBI's eyes were on us, watching every turn of the wheel, every flicker of her expression. When we finally parked at the overlook, she grabbed my hand with forced gentleness. "Come, Mother. Let's see the sunrise. It's beautiful. It reminds you of how short life really is." The way she said it made my skin crawl. I followed her, my steps slow, my body aching with age, but my spirit unwilling to bow. She walked gracefully, confidently, like a predator guiding her prey to the edge. And then, as we reached the cliff, she lingered, waiting for the perfect moment. I stared at her, at the woman I once called daughter, and a part of me still wanted to believe she would stop. That maybe, just maybe, her conscience would wake up. But Catherine had long buried her conscience beneath greed. And so, when she finally shoved me forward, it wasn't hesitation that marked her face. It was triumph. Now, as I hung suspended from the rope, blood trickling from my forehead where it had grazed the rock, I realized something profound. Evil doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it sleeps under your roof, eats at your table, and smiles in your family portraits. The FBI agents pulled me up, their faces grim and urgent. "We've got her," one said. "But we need you to play along a little longer. Let her think you're dead." My chest tightened. Play dead. Pretend I was gone while she celebrated my demise. Could I really stomach it? Yet deep down I knew the answer. If I wanted justice, not just for myself but for my son and grandchildren, I had to let her dance in the flames of her own making. But how long could I endure hiding in the shadows while she played widow to my memory? When Catherine drove back home, her laughter filled the car. She called someone on the phone and whispered, "It's done. She's gone. 5 billion is finally ours." The FBI recorded every word. And as I sat in a safe house miles away, my body aching and my heart torn, I wondered, how would Robert react when he learned the truth? Would he hate me for not warning him sooner? Or hate her for betraying us all? One thing was certain. The war had just begun. And Catherine's victory was about to crumble faster than she could imagine. But what I didn't know yet was that Catherine had darker plans beyond me. Plans that would tear the entire family apart. If you're shocked by how Catherine pushed me and laughed at my supposed death, wait until you see what she does next. Don't miss the next chapter. It will leave you questioning how far someone will go for money. Subscribe, like, and share to stay hooked as this shocking true-to-life saga unfolds. Catherine walked into my son Robert's mansion with a confidence I had never seen before. She was dressed in black silk, her hair neatly tied back, her lips painted a faint crimson. She looked the part of a grieving daughter-in-law, but her eyes sparkled, not with tears but with triumph. Robert rushed to her, his face pale, his voice breaking. "Catherine, where's mother? Where is she?" She threw her arms around him, pressing her cheek to his chest. Robert tried. I really tried. But she slipped. Her voice trembled, but her smile, hidden against his shirt, was wicked. She fell off the cliff. I couldn't save her. Robert staggered back, his eyes wide in disbelief. No, that can't be. She's strong. She's careful, she wouldn't just fall. "She's gone," Catherine whispered. "And there's nothing we can do." Robert collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. And Catherine, the woman who had killed me, began to gently rub his back, whispering fake comfort while secretly rejoicing. But little did she know, the FBI was watching every move, recording every word. Back at the safe house, I sat trembling as I listened to the agents replay her words. She slipped. My fists clenched. Slipped. She had shoved me with her own hands. And now she had the audacity to paint herself as the grieving daughter-in-law. "Mrs. Williams," one of the agents said, "she's convincing. Too convincing. If we reveal you now, she'll fight it, and the case could collapse. We need her to incriminate herself deeper. Let her think she's untouchable." The words pierced me like daggers. Let her think I was dead. Let her console my son with lies. The thought of Robert grieving while Catherine smiled beside him made me want to scream. But I forced myself to breathe. Justice takes patience. But how much patience can a mother have when her son is drowning in sorrow, being comforted by the very hand that tried to kill her? Robert refused to accept my death easily. "I want a search party," he told Catherine. "We'll call the Rangers. We'll search the valley." For a moment, panic flickered across her face. But she quickly masked it with a sigh. Robert, don't put yourself through that. You didn't see it. I did. The cliff is steep. The rocks. There's no way she survived. Robert shook his head, tears brimming. I can't just sit here, Catherine. That's my mother. And so a search began. Men scoured the cliffside. Dogs barked into the emptiness. Drones hovered over the abyss. Catherine stood by, wringing her hands, pretending to be heartbroken. And when nothing was found, she leaned into Robert and whispered, "Maybe it's better this way. Maybe she's at peace now." But in her eyes I could see it, even through the FBI's hidden cameras. Satisfaction. Victory. Greed. She thought she had won. Days turned into weeks. Catherine wasted no time seizing control. She convinced Robert to move forward with legal procedures, citing that mother would have wanted us to carry on. Papers were drawn. Lawyers filed documents. And slowly, the empire I had built began sliding into her hands. She threw lavish dinners, dressed in gowns of velvet and gold, and entertained business partners who toasted her strength in tragedy. My grandchildren, too young to understand, clung to her side, believing her to be their rock in this storm. Robert, though broken, leaned on her. And she loved it. Power. The control. The fortune that was finally within her grasp. But she didn't know the FBI had infiltrated deeper than she imagined. Every dinner, every meeting, every whispered plan, recorded. Every cent she tried to funnel into offshore accounts, tracked. And every mask she wore was slowly being stripped away. Still, the hardest part was watching in silence. I begged the agents, "Please, let me tell Robert. Let me see him. He needs to know I'm alive." But they shook their heads. "Not yet. If she suspects you survived, she'll cover her tracks. We need her desperate. We need her to dig her own grave." So I waited. And with every day that passed, my fury burned hotter. One evening, Catherine made a fatal slip. She called a man, her secret lover. The agents played me the recording. "It's done," she whispered. "She's gone. Robert will be easy to control now. And once the estate is fully in my hands, we'll disappear. 5 billion, darling. We'll never have to look back." My blood ran cold. A lover. Betrayal upon betrayal. Not only had she murdered me for money, but she was planning to abandon my son. The agent smiled grimly. "We've got her. This is exactly what we needed." But Catherine wasn't finished yet. She had one more plan. One that would shake the family to its core. It was Robert's birthday. Catherine threw a grand party, inviting politicians, business leaders, and socialites. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, and Catherine stood at the center, glowing like a queen. Midway through the night, she raised a glass. "To Robert," she said sweetly, "the man who stood by me through everything. Together, we'll carry Margaret's legacy forward." The crowd applauded. Robert, red-eyed but smiling faintly, hugged her. And Catherine, in that moment, had everyone fooled. But as the FBI agents leaned closer to their screens, one of them muttered, "Wait, look at her phone." On the screen, Catherine typed a message under the table. "It's almost time. Tonight we move the rest of the money." She wasn't celebrating Robert's birthday. She was preparing her final betrayal. And what she didn't know was that the FBI had already planted one of their own inside the party. If you thought Catherine's lies and greed had peaked, you're wrong. In the next chapter, you'll see her darkest betrayal yet, and how the FBI finally closes in. Subscribe, like, and share this video so you don't miss the shocking twist that will leave you speechless. The chandelier over Robert's ballroom glowed like a second sun, washing everyone in gold as waiters weaved through the guests with silver trays and false smiles. Yet the only smile that mattered was Catherine's, thin and razor-sharp, the smile of a woman who believed the world now knelt at her feet. Would she still be smiling if she knew who else had been invited tonight? I watched on a secure tablet from the safe house, my pulse counting every second as the FBI's live feed stitched the party into a silent movie. Catherine gliding from table to table, Robert trying to be gracious through grief, and one woman with a pearl comb in her hair listening more than she spoke. That woman wasn't on our original guest list. She was inside, undercover, breathing the same air as my would-be killer, Agent Naomi Pierce, posing as a friend of a friend with a talent for discretion. How many masks could fit in one room? At 9:13 p.m., Catherine tapped out a text beneath the linen-draped table. Her face tilted toward the string quartet to look innocent, her thumb dancing like a pickpocket. Move the rest at 10 o'clock. Vault B, same route. No mistakes. How do you move $5 billion like a ghost? Agent Pierce's earpiece caught a whisper from across the room. Another plant, a sommelier with unusually meticulous posture. Message sent, he said, cork easing from glass with the hush of a secret unsealed. Did Catherine feel watched? Or did arrogance cradle her like a silk shawl? Robert stepped to the microphone, and for a heartbeat the room stilled. His voice carrying the ache of a son trying to honor a mother he believed the earth had swallowed. My mother taught me that money is a tool, not a god, he said, eyes bright and hands shaking around the stem of his glass. If she were here, she'd say love is the only currency that grows when you spend it. Did Catherine flinch or simply blink? The camera followed Catherine's fingers as they tightened just slightly on her clutch, that small tell of a woman irritated by a sermon she thought beneath her. She kissed Robert's cheek. 2 seconds too long, 3 degrees too cold, then drifted toward the back corridor where the staff moved like a river you never notice until it floods your kitchen. What door was she choosing now? In the safe house, Agent Collins lowered the tablet volume and turned to me. If she heads down to the wine cellar, she'll take the service lift to the garage. From there, she'll try to route the transfers from a hard line we flagged last week. His jaw worked as if chewing iron. We need her fingers on the keys, and her voice in the room before we move. How many times had he watched foxes circle coops? I nodded, my palms damp, a mother's prayer trapped behind my teeth. Don't let her out of your sight, I said, though I knew I was talking to fate as much as to him. Was there still a path where my son walked out of this night unbroken? Catherine turned down the corridor, heels whispering on marble, and nearly collided with my youngest granddaughter, Lily, who held a chocolate macaron like a stolen jewel. Careful, darling, Catherine cooed, crouching for the cameras that might be watching, the doting image polished to a mirror sheen. We don't want crumbs on your dress. Did anyone else hear the blade hidden in her sugar? Have you seen Grandma? Lily asked, eyes wide. Innocence a sacrament the world keeps trying to sell for parts. The pearl comb in Agent Pierce's hair caught the light as she drifted closer, listening without seeming to. How does a child's question pry open a grave? Catherine blinked, then smiled, a soft lie stitched with silk. Grandma's with the angels, she whispered, pressing Lily's nose as if the word could be domesticated. Go find Daddy. He needs a little star like you nearby. Did Lily understand she'd just been traded for time? The corridor door closed behind Catherine with a small, final sound, the kind doors make in dreams when you wake tasting metal. Agent Pierce waited 2 beats, then followed, her hand hovering over the hidden recorder sewn into her clutch. How many heartbeats make a trap? Below the ballroom, the house changed accents. Concrete breath, the hum of a lift, the hush of wheels on glossed epoxy. The service elevator opened, and Catherine stepped in alone, the camera catching her reflection multiplied in stainless steel. One woman, many faces, none of them kind. When the doors parted in the garage, the air tasted of cold and secrecy. What ghosts nest in the ribs of a rich man's house? A silver door marked electrical/data sat half open beyond a fleet of black cars, and in its dim rectangle a desk lamp burned like a secular candle over a keyboard. The hardline jack winked, alive, as if happy to be chosen for treason. Catherine slipped inside, shut the door, and exhaled the way people do when they think their future has finally agreed to be obedient. How many fortunes are murdered into existence? Agent Pierce hovered outside the door, then slid in on the tail of a maintenance cart that accidentally rolled forward. Her body a shadow in the hinge's blind spot. Inside, Catherine set her clutch down, rolled her wrists, and connected a slim drive the color of regret. Wake up, she murmured to the terminal, fingers ready to harvest a field she never planted. Do the zeros and ones ever refuse to march? Upstairs, the quartet changed songs, And Robert lifted Lily onto his hip, the camera catching the picture of a man trying to be both father and orphan without spilling either role. He glanced at the hall where Catherine had disappeared, confusion flickering like a match in wind. Was doubt finally threading its way into his grief? In the safe house, Collins toggled the multicam view, the ballroom in gold, the corridor in ivory, the garage in gray, and the little data chapel pulsing blue over Catherine's shoulder. "We go on my count," he said into his mic, jaw set. "We need the transfer authentication and verbal intent. Don't spook her until she hangs herself with her own rope. How thin is the line between patience and cruelty when justice is starving?" Catherine's voice, low and perfumed with victory, filled our headphones. "Vault B, authorization Williams Omega 7. She typed as she spoke, the terminal answering with quiet obedience. "Initiate sweep. Sovereign ladder, Tier 3 shell cascade." The jargon rolled off her tongue with the confidence of a thief who'd practiced in mirrors. Did she rehearse this like a wedding vow? "Confirm beneficiary," the system chirped. She smiled at the screen the way wolves smile at doors. "Aurora Blue Holdings," she said. "Sub-beneficiaries. Delphine Trust, Vesper Lane Partners." Collins's eyes flicked to me, each name a breadcrumb we had seen in the offshore thicket. Was her vanity finally using a bullhorn? "Voice print validated," the terminal replied. "Transfer in 2 phases. Phase 1 ready. Confirm final intent." Catherine leaned closer, savoring the words the way some people savor storm air. "Confirm," she said softly. "Transfer Margaret Williams's assets. She's dead." Did a sentence ever bruise the way that one did? Agent Pierce stepped forward, a breath, a shadow, a decision. "Now," Collins hissed, and 3 things happened at once. The door swung wider, Pierce's badge flashed like a blade of light, and 2 agents emerged from behind the parked cars, rifles low but ready, their silence louder than any siren. Did the floor tilt under Catherine's feet? "Catherine Williams," Agent Pierce said, voice steady. "Federal Bureau of Investigation." Step away from the terminal. Hands visible, fingers splayed. Would Catherine obey any hand but her own? For a heartbeat, Catherine obeyed. Palms rising, lashes lowering, the performance art of submission. Then she laughed, low and almost tender, as if amused by a child's game. "You really think you're early," she murmured, eyes bright with something that wasn't fear. "But you're late." How do those words find oxygen? The lights flickered, once, twice, then steadied with a deeper hum. On Collins's tablet, an alert flared red. Backup node active. External authorization detected. Pierce registered it too, chin lifting half a degree. "Who else is in play?" she asked, to no one and everyone. Where had we forgotten to lock a door? "Phase 2 routed," the terminal announced, almost cheerful. "Awaiting biometric handshake." Catherine smiled, and for the first time all night it reached her eyes. An unholy sudden bloom. "Ask your techs where Robert keeps his watch," she said. "The one with his mother's initials engraved on the back." What had she touched that was meant to be safe? Upstairs, the ballroom camera caught Robert lifting his wrist to wipe his eyes as Lily patted his cheek, the glint of brushed steel winking above his pulse. He had never taken that watch off since my 60th birthday. Love wrapped around time like ivy. When did love become a master key? Agent Pierce's voice flattened. "Kill the uplinks," she ordered through clenched teeth. "Isolate the node. Jam the garage. Now." But even as the tech team moved, the screen in front of Catherine bloomed with a new prompt. Bluetooth handshake ready. Seeking paired device. Omega W. What had grief already cost us? Catherine tilted her head toward the ceiling as if she could see through floors, through strangers, through the boy I once rocked to sleep. "Tick-tock," she whispered, almost lovingly. "He thinks tonight is about his birthday. Can love be turned into a weapon by a mouth that calls it by name?" Pierce lunged, cutting the hardline cable with a single savage snap, and the monitor erupted in error codes like a protest. "Hands behind your head, Catherine," she snapped, the air filling with the bitter scent of hot electronics. "We are done here." "Were we?" Catherine didn't resist. She folded in on herself like a black flower, wrists crossing at her crown, a picture of docility that fooled no one. "You'll find the rest of my notes in the nursery," she said sweetly, as if offering directions to the powder room. "Check the music box I gave Lily." What poison had she wrapped in lullabies? Collins's gaze hit mine, shock, then fury, then professional ice. He barked orders into the comm. "Secure the children. Evacuate the ballroom quietly. Pierce, hold position. No exfil until the garage is sterile." Could tenderness outrun a plan already breathing in the walls? Upstairs, the quartet stopped mid-phrase. The conductor lowered his hand, puzzled, and a string of murmurs rose like steam. Robert set Lily down and turned toward the corridor, instinct tugging like a leash invisible to cameras. "Where's Catherine?" he asked the nearest waiter, voice already bending toward panic. When does a man sense the shape of betrayal without knowing its name? In the garage, a low beep pulsed from under the desk. Something smaller than a phone, fatter than a flash drive, an orphaned heartbeat. Pierce crouched, eyes narrowing, and lifted a matte black puck with a tiny screen counting backwards, from 120. "We've got a device," she said, voice clipped. "Possible data grenade may be worse. How many exits does a monster give herself?" Catherine laughed again, softer this time, a sound that made my skin feel like paper near fire. "You're dramatic, agent," she said. "It's only a messenger." The numbers fell. 118, 117, 116, each a footstep in a dark hall. Who waits at the end of that hall? Collins moved to the secondary feed, the nursery camera we almost never used, and my heart bucked against my ribs. Lily's music box sat on the shelf shaped like a tiny stage, ballerina sleeping inside, paint chipped at the corner from a fall last summer. A small green LED blinked on its base where no LED had any reason to live. What does a ballerina dance to when the song is a lie? "Bomb squad," Collins said, already dialing, already shouting, already cursing the geometry of rich houses. "Evac now, get the kids." But the ballroom had already begun to tilt toward chaos, a hush collapsing into noise as the first agents appeared at the edges like guilt showing itself on a face. Could we save everyone and still catch the wolf? Robert scooped Lily up, his mouth forming my name like a prayer and a curse, searching for Catherine with a lover's faith and a soldier's dread. A waiter touched his arm, our sommelier, our other plant, and said, voice calm as a lullaby, "Sir, we need you to come with me." Quietly. Which father trusts a stranger in a storm? One of the door guards, supposedly private security, actually ours, signaled. Side exit clear. Robert hesitated, torn between the hall that held his wife's secrets and the door that held his child's life. He chose Lily and stepped into the service passage, the camera catching the exact moment a belief dies behind human eyes. What do we call a man who chooses right too late? In the garage, the device ticked below 100. Pierce glanced at Catherine, at the door, at the cable she'd killed, calculus racing behind her irises. "Why the show?" she asked, buying any second she could pawn. "You already had the money in motion." Catherine's lips parted in a small sigh. "A woman should celebrate milestones," she said. "Don't you think? What flavor is triumph when it's washed in ash?" "On my mark," Collins told the bomb team. "Remove the music box, hands steady, cradle the bass, no tilting." Upstairs, 2 agents entered the nursery like surgeons, breath shallow, hands sacred, and lifted the painted stage as if it held the mouth of a god. How many miracles can a night afford? 70, Pierce said, watching the countdown on the puck. 69. 68. She tightened the zip ties until Catherine winced, the first honest expression she'd worn all night. Does pain surprise those who trade in it? Catherine turned her face toward the camera. Toward me she must have known. Villains always know where the audience sits, and said in a voice barely above a whisper, "Hello, Margaret. How cold is a greeting sent through wires?" I didn't breathe. "She can't know I'm alive," I said to Collins, voice thin in my own ears. "She can't. But Catherine smiled, a slow unfurling of poison. "If I pushed you and you lived," she murmured, "you would hide, wouldn't you? You would watch." Did she see me now, or only believe she had earned the privilege? 52, Pierce said. 51. 50. Above us, the nursery agents crossed the threshold of the service stair, sweat mapping their hairlines, one cradling the music box like a beating heart, the other clearing corners with the muzzle of his rifle. Where do you put a lullaby when it wants to be a scream? Down in the garage, the puck's screen flickered, and new text crawled under the numbers. "Hello, Robert." Pierce's gaze snapped to Catherine. "What's the end game?" Catherine's eyes shone bright and dry. "Not the end," she said. "A beginning. How many beginnings are a crime dressed for Sunday?" 40, Pierce counted. 39. 38. She radioed. "Perimeter cold? Route the box to the blast locker in the west courtyard. Keep civilians away by any means." Up in the ballroom, strings broke into chatter and then silence, the hush of a theater when the third act refuses to behave. Who writes a play where the knives are real? Robert appeared at the corridor mouth, Lily in his arms, heart in his throat, and stopped, caught in the rip between two worlds. Catherine's absence like a hole in the air, Agent's hands like parentheses trying to hold the sentence of his life together. What word fills that hole? In the safe house, I stood without meaning to, pressing my palm to the screen where my son's face burned, where my granddaughter's hair caught the gold like corn in summer, where love looked exactly like vulnerability. "Please," I whispered to no one the microphones could record. Who hears a mother when the room is full of gods with badges? 27, Pierce said, voice low, steady. 26. She turned to Catherine. "Last chance to say something that helps you." Catherine breathed in as if the garage smelled of roses. "I never wanted a small life," she said. "People will say that's my sin. But it isn't." She tilted her chin toward the ceiling, toward the nursery, toward the child whose question she had sedated with lies. "My sin is patience. What does a patient wolf grow into?" 20, Pierce answered. Not to the philosophy but to the arithmetic that could not be charmed. The agents with the music box reached the courtyard. The blast locker, a squat steel coffin, yawned open, gullet waiting. 18. 17. The puck screen changed again, numbers halting like a stutter, then resuming, sweet dreams appearing between ticks. "We're cutting the tether," the bomb tech on comms said, fingers moving where the camera wouldn't show. "Isolate, ground, bleed the charge now. Does electricity respect prayer?" 10, Pierce said. 9. She looked at Catherine. "You lose." Catherine's smile vanished, not into fear, not into shock, but into something stranger, leaner, acceptance. "We'll see," she said, so quietly I almost missed it. "Do monsters recognize the shape of their own endings?" 3, Pierce breathed. 2. In the courtyard, the locker door slammed with a clang that echoed like a judge's gavel. The tech hit the lever. The world held itself like a lung at the top of a staircase. 1. Silence, then a muffled thud deep as an organ note, the locker shuddering once, dust lifting gentle as confession, the box inside giving up its secret. Not fire, not shrapnel, data. An electromagnetic cough meant to wipe nearby systems clean. "EMP device," the tech said, voice ironed flat. "Contained. Localized. Systems upstairs show minor interference. We're good." When is good just a word you use to keep moving? In the garage, the puck on the floor died. Numbers fading to nothing. The last letter of sweet dreams dissolving like a sugar skull in rain. Pierce exhaled, long and silent, then reached for Catherine's arm. "It's over," she said. "You're done." But the terminal behind Catherine, supposedly starved, pinged once, then again, like a creature trying to remember its name. Collins's tablet flashed a new alert that punched my stomach through my spine. External handshake complete. Remote device authenticated. Phase 2 resumed on reserve path. Where had the second snake hidden its skin? Pierce's eyes snapped to the screen. "That's impossible," she said, and Catherine laughed, head tipping back against the cinder block, wrists bound, queen on a ruined throne. "You can't kill every mirror," she whispered. "Not when a man wears one on his wrist." What reflections had we failed to break? Upstairs, Robert looked down at his watch, the one I gave him, our initials etched into steel, then back at Lily, then toward the corridor where the sommelier urged him through the door. "Dad?" Lily asked, the smallest voice in a house of shouting. "What choice weighs more than a child in your arms?" The screen split. On the left, code flowed like a river awakened by thunder. On the right, Robert lifted his hand as if to comfort his daughter, and the second he did, the watch face pulsed, just once, a breath of light beneath the sapphire crystal. So faint it could be grief playing tricks, so undeniable it broke me where I stood. "What kind of love token becomes a key to your mother's grave?" Agent Pierce snarled into the mic. "Kill the watch, kill the room, kill the grid if you have to." But Catherine only smiled with that slow, spectral calm and said the softest sentence of the night, the one that landed like a razor laid on silk. "Margaret, if you're watching, come save your boy." Cliffhanger, the trap tightens. A hidden authentication via Robert's watch threatens to complete the transfer while Catherine sits cuffed and calm, and the FBI must choose between protecting the family and preserving the case. Backhand index pointing right. If your heart is pounding, you're not alone. In the next chapter, the FBI races to sever the secret link tethered to Robert's watch, while I make an impossible choice between staying hidden and stepping into the line of fire. Don't miss it. Hit subscribe, like, and share so you're here the second the next chapter drops. The room was heavy with silence, but not the peaceful kind. It was the kind of silence that presses on your chest, makes you wonder if you're still breathing. On the monitor in front of me, I saw it. Robert's watch pulsing faintly on his wrist. My gift. My initials engraved. And now, the very thing Catherine had twisted into a weapon. My heart lurched, torn between pride for the man I raised and horror that his love for me had become the key to his ruin. "Kill the watch now," Agent Pierce barked. Her voice cracked through the garage like a whip, sharp and absolute. But even as the text scrambled, Catherine's laughter echoed. Low, bitter, triumphant. "You can cut wires," she said, her lips curling. "But you can't cut loyalty. That watches his pulse. He'll never take it off. Not for you. Not for me. Not for anyone." Her words slithered into my ears like poison. And she was right. Robert wore that watch every single day since the moment I gave it to him. He told me once, "It keeps me grounded, Mom. When I look at it, I know you're with me." How could I have imagined that same love would now betray him? The text moved fast. Fingers flew over keyboards. Sparks hissed as wires were ripped out. "We're blocking the signals," one said, sweat dripping down his temple. "We've jammed the local band. It should sever the connection." "Should." Collins snapped, his jaw tight. "Should doesn't keep $5 billion from evaporating into a ghost account." And then the monitor blinked. Once, twice, and a new line of code scrolled across. Reserve node engaged. Awaiting confirmation. Omega W active. The blood drained from my face. Omega W. The W wasn't just Williams. It was Robert. My son. My flesh and blood. He had unknowingly become the last lock Catherine needed. Upstairs, Robert shifted Lily on his hip. He looked down at the watch, noticing the strange flicker. "What's wrong with this thing?" he muttered, tapping the glass gently. His brow furrowed. "It's never done that before." Lily reached out, tiny fingers brushing the face. "It's glowing, Daddy. Like Grandma's star." Robert smiled faintly, grief in his eyes. "Yeah, baby. Like Grandma's star." He kissed her hair, completely unaware that every beat of his heart was pulling my empire closer to ruin. And worse, pulling him closer to Catherine's trap. In the garage, Catherine leaned back against the wall, wrists bound, but her voice smooth as silk. "He trusts me more than you, Margaret. He trusts me more than himself. And soon, he'll trust me enough to sign everything over. He doesn't know he's already holding the key." My breath hitched. She knew I was watching. She wasn't talking to Pierce. She wasn't talking to Collins. She was talking to me. Don't listen to her, Collins growled, his eyes flicking to me. She's baiting you. If you reveal yourself now, we lose everything. She'll lawyer up, twist the narrative, claim you orchestrated this whole thing. You stay hidden. That's the only way we win. But how do you stay hidden when your son's life is unraveling thread by thread? Robert's confusion grew. He stepped aside from the crowd, staring at the watch like it had betrayed him. Catherine had chosen her timing well. The party, the speeches, the cameras, it was all a stage. And Robert, my sweet boy, was unknowingly stepping into her final act. Then it happened. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling. The screen displayed an alert. Vault access pending confirmation. Please authorize. What the? He muttered, shielding the phone from the crowd. Why is this on my screen? Before he could react further, Catherine's voice echoed in the ballroom through hidden speakers, her pre-recorded words timed perfectly. Robert, my love, the voice purred. If you're seeing this, it means the world is ours now. Just confirm. Do it for us. Do it for our children. Do it for your mother's legacy. Robert's face drained of color. He staggered back, shaking his head. What is this? Catherine. Gasps spread through the guests. Whispers turned into shouts. Phones were raised, recording, streaming, sending his confusion into the world like wildfire. And at that exact moment I realized, if I didn't act, Catherine would win. Back in the garage, Pierce pressed the muzzle of her gun against Catherine's shoulder. You recorded this. You planned this whole damn thing. Catherine smiled, a predator caught but unbroken. Of course I planned it. You think I'd risk $5 billion on a push and a prayer? No, agent. I built an empire of lies. And Robert, poor broken Robert, will be the one to hand it all to me. I slammed my palm against the table in the safe house. No, she's using him. He'll sign because he thinks it's me. Because he thinks it's what I wanted. Collins turned to me, his eyes hard. Margaret, listen to me. If you step in now, everything unravels. But if you stay quiet, if you let this play out, we'll have her locked for life. What's more important to you? Justice or your son's heart? The question tore me apart. Justice or my son's heart? Could I really choose one over the other? Robert held his phone, his hands trembling. His daughter's wide eyes fixed on him. Around him, the room buzzed with confusion, suspicion, fear. Daddy, Lily whispered. Why is Mommy talking like that? Robert's lip trembled. I don't know, baby. I don't know. And then, just as his thumb hovered over the screen, Catherine raised her head in the garage, locked eyes with the camera, and whispered words that froze my blood solid. Margaret, it's your move. The monitor went black. Backhand index pointing right, the trap has tightened, and now I face an impossible choice. Reveal myself and save Robert, or stay hidden and let Catherine destroy everything. What would you do? Don't miss the next chapter. It will test the limits of love, loyalty, and justice. Subscribe, like, and share this video because the storm is only getting darker. The monitor went black, leaving only the reflection of my pale, trembling face staring back at me. The silence in the safe house was so thick I could hear my heartbeat pounding like war drums in my chest. Catherine's words hung in the air like a noose. Margaret, it's your move. I had kept quiet for weeks, watching from the shadows while my son mourned me, while my grandchildren cried themselves to sleep in Catherine's arms, while my entire legacy dangled over a cliff sharper than the one she had tried to kill me on. And now she had cornered me. Collins gripped my shoulder hard. Don't. That's exactly what she wants. If you show yourself, she wins. I shook him off, my voice shaking but firm. And if I don't, Robert signs everything away. He'll lose his future. My grandchildren will grow up in her cage. What kind of mother? What kind of grandmother? Stays hidden while her family is destroyed. Pierce's voice crackled through the comms from the garage. Margaret, if you break cover now, the case falls apart. But if you don't, we risk losing everything. You need to decide. How do you choose between justice and blood? Between the law and love? Meanwhile, in the ballroom, Robert's face was pale as a ghost. His thumb hovered over the glowing screen. Guests whispered, eyes darting between him and the speakers. His whole body trembled, not just with grief but with doubt. He whispered to himself, unaware the mic caught every word. What if this is what Mom wanted? What if this is her gift to us? Her legacy? My heart cracked in two. My son, my boy, the man I raised to be strong and righteous, was being led like a lamb to the slaughter by the lies of a woman he thought loved him. Lily tugged on his sleeve, her voice small and clear as crystal. Daddy, Grandma wouldn't want us to be sad for money. She always said love was bigger than gold. Robert froze, tears welling in his eyes. She did say that, didn't she? The entire ballroom was silent, the world holding its breath as Robert struggled with the decision of his life. Down in the garage, Catherine's smirk widened. He'll do it. He loves me too much. He'll think it's for the children. And when he does, $5 billion will vanish, and you'll never find it. Not even with all your badges and guns. Pierce leaned in, her gun steady. If you think you've won, why are you smiling so hard? Catherine tilted her head. Because Margaret can hear me. And Margaret can't stay quiet forever. She's a mother. And mothers are predictable. Her words were knives, cutting straight into me. She was daring me to reveal myself, knowing I couldn't stand to watch Robert's pain another second. Collins turned, his face stone hard. Margaret, I swear to you, if you show yourself now, we may never nail her. But if you let this play out just a little longer, we can bury her so deep she'll never claw her way out. But could I really gamble with my son's soul like that? Robert's hand trembled. The ballroom gasped. His thumb hovered an inch above the confirmation button. He shut his eyes, whispering, Mom, I wish you were here. I don't know what to do. That broke me. Without thinking, I stood, shoving the tablet away. My voice cracked but was louder than thunder. Enough. He needs me. I don't care about your case. I care about my son. Collins lunged forward. Margaret, no. But I was already gone, storming out of the safe house. My legs shook with age, but fire blazed in my veins. Catherine wanted me to make a move. Fine. I'd make a move that would end her game once and for all. Minutes later, the ballroom doors swung open. Gasps filled the air as I stepped inside. Alive, breathing, bruised but unbroken. Robert's phone slipped from his hand. Lily's eyes went wide. Grandma! Robert's knees buckled. Mom! Well, that's impossible. I buried you in my heart. I mourned you. I walked forward slowly, my eyes never leaving Catherine's face. Her smirk faltered, her mask slipping for the first time. She hadn't expected me to truly step into the light. It's me, Robert, I said, my voice breaking. I never left you. She tried but she failed. And now everyone knows the truth. The crowd erupted in chaos. Shouts, screams, the flashing of cameras. Phones streamed live. The world was watching. And Catherine's reign was over. Or so I thought. Because at that exact moment, Catherine screamed, louder than anyone else, and threw herself to the ground, clutching her wrists as if in agony. Help me! She's alive, she's come back to kill me. The crowd gasped. Whispers turned into roars. Eyes flicked between me and her, doubt spreading like fire in dry grass. She was turning the story around. And in that instant, I realized the war wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Cliffhanger. Catherine has been exposed, but now she's spinning the narrative, painting Margaret as the villain in front of everyone. Backhand index pointing right. You saw me step out of the shadows, but Catherine isn't done. In the next chapter, she twists the truth and turns the crowd against me in a way you won't believe. Whose side will Robert take? Don't miss it. Subscribe, like, and share because the storm is only getting darker. The ballroom was chaos. Screams, gasps, shouts, all mixing into a storm of noise. I stood frozen in the doorway, breath heaving, my heart screaming for my son to see the truth. But Catherine... Oh, Catherine was already ahead of me. She rolled across the floor like an actress in some grotesque play, clutching her wrists as if the zip ties had been replaced by shackles of fire. "She's alive!" she shrieked, pointing at me with trembling hands. "She faked her death. She's here to kill me and steal everything back." The crowd turned as one, hundreds of eyes boring into me. Phones were raised, flashes blinding. Half of them whispered in shock, the other half in suspicion. Robert stumbled backward, his face twisted with confusion. "Mom, how is this even possible?" "Because I never died," I said firmly, stepping further into the light. "Your wife tried to kill me, Robert. She pushed me off that cliff with her own hands. And now she wants to finish what she started." But Catherine's crocodile tears were already flowing. She crawled toward Robert, clutching his leg. "Don't believe her. She's staging this, don't you see? She's been hiding, manipulating the FBI, playing games. She wants to turn you against me. She wants to ruin us." The room split like glass under a hammer. Some gasped at Catherine's performance, others murmured in disbelief at my words. But the danger was clear. Catherine knew how to twist narratives, and she had the crowd on her side. Robert's eyes darted between us. His wife on the floor weeping. His mother standing tall, bruised, and trembling with truth. His hands shook as he whispered, "I don't know who to believe anymore." That sentence cut through me like a blade. My son, my only boy, lost between the lies of a viper and the truth of his own mother. Lily tugged on his arm, her small voice piercing through the chaos. "Daddy, Grandma's telling the truth. Mommy was mean to her. I saw it." The crowd gasped again. Catherine's head snapped toward Lily, eyes blazing for a fraction of a second before she quickly softened her face. "She's just a child. She doesn't understand." But the damage was done. A seed of doubt had been planted, not just in Robert, but in everyone watching. Then the sharp clap of authority cut through the storm. "FBI! Step back!" Agents poured into the room, weapons low but visible. Pierce strode in, her badge flashing, her eyes cold steel. "Catherine Williams, you are under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial terrorism." Gasps rippled. Phones zoomed closer. Catherine froze for only a second before recovering, her mask slipping back on. She raised her bound wrists high, playing the victim to the last breath. "This is madness," she cried. "You're all being manipulated by her. Look at her. She's orchestrated everything. Disappearing, reappearing, pointing fingers. Ask yourselves, who benefits the most from this spectacle?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I felt them shifting, their faith as fragile as glass, ready to shatter either way. Robert's face was pale as he stared at me. "Mom, please. Tell me it's true. Tell me you didn't lie to me all this time." Tears burned my eyes. "Robert, I swear on everything I've ever given you, I never lied. I hid because I had to. Because she would have killed me again if I came back too soon. I only stayed away to protect you. To protect your children." The words cracked my voice. The room held its breath. Catherine hissed, her mask breaking for the first time, venom spilling through her smile. "Lies. All of it. Don't you see, Robert? She's trying to destroy us. She's jealous of me. She always has been." Robert staggered back, torn in two, his world splitting apart. His breathing quickened, his fists clenched. For a moment, it seemed as if he would side with her. Then Lily pulled on his shirt again and whispered in the way only children can. Pure, unfiltered truth. "Daddy, Mommy said Grandma was gone forever. But Grandma's here. That means Mommy lied." The silence that followed was deafening. Catherine's face drained of color. The crowd gasped. And Robert, my Robert, looked at me with trembling eyes as the pieces finally began to fall into place. But Catherine wasn't finished. She lunged forward suddenly, faster than anyone expected, grabbing Robert's phone from the floor. Her thumb darted toward the screen, her face twisted with desperation. Then I'll finish it myself, she screamed. If you won't give it to me, I'll take it. Gasps exploded. Agents moved. Robert shouted. I reached out instinctively. And in that split second, the ballroom became a battlefield. Catherine makes her most desperate move yet, grabbing Robert's phone to complete the transfer herself. Backhand index pointing right. Catherine has been exposed, but now she's more dangerous than ever. Will she succeed in stealing everything in one last desperate act? Or will justice finally catch her? Don't miss the next chapter. It will shake this story to its very core. Like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the storm that's about to break. Catherine's scream tore through the ballroom as she snatched Robert's phone from the floor. Gasps erupted, people stumbled back, glasses shattered. For a moment, time slowed, the screen's glow casting a sickly light across her face. Her thumb trembling inches from the confirm transfer button that would funnel $5 billion into the abyss. Catherine, don't! Robert roared, his voice breaking like glass under pressure. He lunged forward, but two agents were faster. They grabbed her arms, straining as she writhed like a wild animal caught in a trap. The phone slipped from her grip, spinning through the air, landing on the marble floor with a crack. The screen flickered, still active, still waiting for confirmation. No! Catherine shrieked, her mask of control gone, replaced by raw, desperate rage. It's mine. All of it is mine. She doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve anything. Her words rang through the hall like curses, stripping away the last of her pretense. The perfect wife, the grieving daughter-in-law, all gone. In her place was the true Catherine. Greedy, venomous, consumed. Agents pinned her down, forcing her face to the floor as she thrashed, spitting and clawing like a rabid beast. You don't understand, she screamed, her voice cracking. Do you know what it's like to marry into nothing? To smile while she looked down on me. To watch her control everything. I earned this. I earned it. Robert froze, chest heaving, his face pale with disbelief. He whispered almost to himself. This is the woman I married. His hands shook as he looked at me, then at Lily, then at Catherine being dragged across the floor like a storm finally broken. Catherine's eyes locked on me, wild and burning. This isn't over, Margaret. You think you've won. You think hiding and crawling back will save you. You'll regret this. You all will regret this. Her voice was dragged into the distance as agents hauled her away. Her words echoing off the ballroom walls like the hiss of a dying snake. The silence that followed was suffocating. Guests whispered, recording everything, their phones capturing the raw wreckage of a family imploding before their eyes. My son stood trembling in the center of it all, torn between rage and grief. Slowly, Robert turned toward me. His eyes, bloodshot, broken, met mine. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come back sooner? Do you know what it did to me, thinking you were gone? Do you know what it did to the kids? Tears blurred my vision. My voice cracked. Because if I had, she would have destroyed us all. The FBI begged me to stay hidden until they had enough to trap her. I thought I was protecting you. Robert's chest rose and fell like waves in a storm. His fists clenched. Protecting me. I buried you in my heart. My children cried themselves to sleep for weeks. And all that time she held us. She lied to us. He shook his head, tears spilling. I don't know if I can forgive you for staying away. The words sliced through me deeper than any knife. My son, the boy I raised, the man I loved, looked at me with eyes that saw me as both savior and betrayer. Lily, still in his arms, reached for me. Grandma, don't cry, she said softly. You came back. You came back for us. Her small hand brushed my face, wiping away a tear. That touch, innocent and pure, pulled Robert's head down. He kissed her hair, his shoulders shaking. The room was still buzzing with whispers, but in that moment, it was just the three of us, caught between truth, betrayal, and fragile love. Then Collins approached, his voice low but firm. Mrs. Williams, we need to move you and your family to a safe location. Catherine's arrest won't stop her allies from trying. This is bigger than just her. Bigger? Asked my voice hoarse. Collins nodded grimly. The offshore networks she built, they weren't just for her. She was working with others. Powerful people. People who won't stop until they get what she almost stole. My blood ran cold. This wasn't over. Catherine wasn't just greedy. She was a cog in something darker, larger. And if Collins was right, then the war for my family had only just begun. Robert wiped his face, his voice raw. So what now? What happens to us? To Mom? Collins' eyes hardened. Now, we brace ourselves. Because Catherine may be in chains, but her shadow still walks free. I looked down at Lily, then at Robert, and finally at the sea of strangers with cameras still rolling. The world had seen the truth, or at least pieces of it. And Catherine's threats echoed in my head like thunder before a storm. This wasn't victory. This was just survival. And survival always comes at a price. Catherine is arrested, but her words reveal she wasn't working alone, opening the door to a larger, more dangerous conspiracy. Backhand index pointing right. Catherine may be in custody, but the danger isn't over. In the next chapter, the truth about her secret allies comes to light, and the fight for my family's survival escalates to a level none of us could have imagined. Subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss the storm that's still building. The cold night air outside the mansion bit into my bones as agents rushed us into armored SUVs. Blue and red lights painted the driveway in dizzying flashes. Catherine's screams still echoed in my ears even though she was already cuffed and locked in the back of another vehicle. But it wasn't her screams that haunted me. It was her last words. This isn't over. You'll regret this. Inside the SUV, Robert sat rigid, his hand gripping Lily as if letting go would shatter him. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. He hadn't spoken a word since Catherine was dragged away. My heart ached. I wanted to comfort him, but how could I when my very silence had already betrayed him? Collins broke the silence. We intercepted Catherine's offshore records before she could wipe them. She wasn't acting alone. She was tied to something bigger, an international laundering ring. My breath caught. You mean, there are others after the money? Pierce, seated in the front, turned. Her face was hard as stone. Others. Mrs. Williams. Catherine was small time compared to the people behind her. You were never her only target. That money was supposed to fuel something far worse than greed. Robert finally spoke, his voice low and broken. So my wife, my children's mother, wasn't just a liar. She was a traitor. Pierce didn't flinch. Yes. Robert looked at me, his eyes burning with questions and blame. But before either of us could say a word, the SUV jolted violently. Ambush! The driver shouted. Bullets cracked against the armored glass, sparks bursting in the night. Tires screeched. Another SUV swerved ahead of us, blocking the road. Shadows with rifles poured from the trees, faces masked, movements sharp and disciplined. Lily screamed. Robert shielded her with his body. My heart stopped. This wasn't random. This was organized. Catherine's allies had come to finish what she started. Down! Collins barked, shoving me against the seat as agents returned fire. Muzzles lit up the night, a battlefield erupting on the quiet country road. Move, move, move! Pierce shouted. We can't stay boxed in. The SUV roared forward, ramming into the blockade. Metal crunched, sparks flew. The impact jolted me so hard my ribs screamed, but we pushed through. Gunfire followed us like angry wasps as we tore down the dark road. Minutes stretched like hours before the shooting faded into the distance. The SUV finally skidded to a halt at a secured checkpoint. Soldiers, not just agents, surrounded us now. Floodlights bathed the area in harsh white. Pierce turned, her face grim. You see now. Catherine wasn't bluffing. This is bigger than your family feud. Whoever she was working with, they want that money at all costs. I looked at Robert. His face was pale, his eyes darting between me and Lily. So what happens now? Do we just keep running? Do we live like fugitives while these people hunt us? No, Collins said firmly. We take the fight to them. And Catherine is the key. Hours later, in an interrogation room, Catherine sat in chains. Her once perfect hair hung limp, her dress torn, her face pale but her smile. Oh, that smile was still there. Pierce slammed a folder onto the table. Your friends tried to intercept our convoy tonight. People could have died. You're done, Catherine. Tell us who you're working with, and maybe you'll see sunlight again. Catherine chuckled, low and bitter. Sunlight? You think they'll let me live long enough for prison? No, agent. I'm safer here than out there. Her eyes flicked to the camera, to me. Isn't that right, Margaret? They'll never stop. Not until everything you built is ashes. You should have stayed dead. Her words sent chills down my spine. She was right about one thing, this was far from over. Later, Collins showed me a file. We traced one of the shell companies, Aurora Blue Holdings. It's tied to a man named Victor Hale, ex-banker, rumored kingpin of a laundering empire. Catherine was funneling the money to him. And now he knows she failed. Robert clenched his fists. So this Victor will come after us next. Yes, Collins said. And he won't just come with guns. He'll come with lawyers, bankers, politicians. All the tools money can buy. He'll try to strangle you in silence. I swallowed hard. Then we fight. We've survived cliffs, bullets, and betrayal. I won't let some shadow finish what Catherine started. But inside I wondered, was I strong enough? Was my family strong enough? That night, as I tucked Lily into the safehouse cot, she whispered, Grandma, is Mommy coming back? Tears stung my eyes. No, baby. Mommy made choices that hurt people. She can't come back from that. Lily looked at me with innocent eyes. Then promise me you'll never leave again. I hugged her tight, my chest breaking. I promise. But even as I made that promise, I felt the weight of Catherine's last smile and Victor Hale's shadow pressing in on us. And deep down I knew. The real battle was just beginning. Catherine is locked away, but her shadowy ally Victor Hale is revealed. The fight has escalated beyond betrayal into a war against a powerful empire. Backhand index pointing right, Catherine may be caged, but her allies are free, and they're coming. In the next chapter, the final showdown begins. A battle not just for money, but for family, justice, and survival. Don't miss the explosive finale. Subscribe, like, and share because this ending will leave you breathless. The safe house walls felt too thin for the storm closing in. Sleep never came that night. Every creak, every hum of the generator, every gust of wind through the shutters sounded like the footstep of an enemy. My family, my son, my grandchildren, had been thrust into a war they never asked for. And at the center of it all was me. By morning, Collins stormed in with files thick as bricks. His jaw was tight, his voice clipped. It's happening. Victor Hale is moving. He's filed injunctions, frozen accounts, and bought 3 senators overnight. He's painting you as the thief, Margaret. Catherine was only his pawn, but now she's his weapon too. Pierce slid her laptop across the table. On the screen, a news anchor spoke with grim authority. Shocking revelations suggest Margaret Williams staged her own disappearance to manipulate family wealth. Sources close to Catherine Williams claim Margaret is the true criminal mastermind. My stomach turned. Lies. But in the court of public opinion, lies shouted loud enough become truth. Robert slammed his fist on the table. They're dragging her name through the mud. My mother is the victim here, not the villain. His voice broke, raw and desperate. What do we do? How do we fight shadows this big? Collins leaned forward. We expose them. We show the world the truth. And Catherine, whether she knows it or not, is our linchpin. That afternoon, Catherine was wheeled into a federal courtroom under heavy guard. Cameras flashed like lightning as reporters swarmed, their questions sharp as knives. Catherine, were you manipulated by Margaret Williams? Do you regret marrying into the Williams family? Is it true you were just protecting your children? Catherine lowered her head, her voice trembling just enough to fool the world. I only ever wanted to be loved. Margaret hated me from the start. She framed me. She tried to kill me first. Gasps filled the room. Reporters scribbled, cameras clicked. And I, sitting across the aisle, felt fury rise in my chest so fierce I thought it might tear me apart. But then Pierce whispered in my ear, "Let her speak. Let her bury herself." The trial unfolded like theater. The prosecution laid out evidence. Bank transfers, secret accounts, recordings of Catherine whispering about my death. The defense countered with spin, claiming I orchestrated everything to control the money. And then came the moment that changed everything. Pierce played the final recording. Catherine's own voice, cold and unguarded, captured the night before her arrest. "It's done. She's gone. $5 billion is finally ours. Once Robert signs, we'll disappear." The courtroom went silent. Catherine froze. Her mask cracked. And for the first time, the world saw her as I had always seen her. Not a victim, but a predator. Robert's eyes filled with tears. He looked at me across the aisle and mouthed, "I'm sorry." My heart swelled with both sorrow and relief. At last my son believed me. But Victor Hale wasn't finished. Mid-trial, one of his lawyers stood, slick as oil. "Your Honor, we have new evidence. Margaret Williams has been hiding assets offshore for years. She's no innocent grandmother. She's the architect of this scheme." The crowd gasped. My blood turned cold. Collins slammed a folder down. "That's fabricated. We traced those accounts, they're Victor's. This is an attempt to flip the case." The judge frowned, weighing truth against power, facts against influence. For a heartbeat, I feared Hale's money might outweigh my truth. And then a voice rang out from the gallery. "Lies!" It was Lily, my sweet granddaughter, standing on a bench, her little face flushed with courage. "My grandma never lied. Mommy did. Mommy told me Grandma was gone forever, but Grandma came back. Mommy's the liar, not Grandma." The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, cameras flashing faster than thunder. Out of the mouths of babes comes truth sharper than any lawyer's tongue. The judge pounded his gavel. "Order! Order!" But the damage to Catherine's facade was done. When the verdict came, it felt like a lifetime collapsing into a single word. "Guilty." Catherine screamed as guards restrained her. "No, you can't do this to me. Victor will come for you all. You'll never be safe." She kicked, fought, and spat, but the chains held. For all her venom, she was nothing more than a caged serpent now. As they dragged her away, her eyes locked on mine. Hatred, pure and eternal, burned in them. But for the first time I wasn't afraid. I was free. Weeks later, Victor Hale was indicted after a series of raids toppled his empire. Counts frozen. Allies arrested. His shadow empire collapsed under the weight of exposure. The fight had been long, bloody, and costly, but it was over. I sat on the porch of my countryside home, Robert beside me, Lily in my lap. The sun dipped low, painting the sky with gold. For the first time in months I felt peace. "Mom," Robert said softly, his hand finding mine. "I'll never forgive myself for doubting you. But I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "No, son. You don't need to make it right. Just love your children. Just love them the way I loved you. That's enough." And that was the lesson, the truth carved into every scar this ordeal left behind. Money can buy power, but it cannot buy love. Love is the only legacy worth fighting for. I looked at Lily, her head resting against my chest, her small voice whispering, "Grandma, you kept your promise. You came back." "Yes, baby," I said, kissing her forehead. "And I'll never leave again." The war was over. Catherine was gone. Victor Hale was finished. My family was scarred but alive. And I, Margaret Williams, 72 years old, had survived betrayal, bullets, and blood for one reason alone: love. Because in the end, Love is the only fortune that lasts forever. Backhand index pointing right: family, betrayal, greed, and justice. This journey has been raw and unforgettable. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so others can experience it too. And remember, in life, guard your heart, guard your family, because money fades but love endures.